I'd like to do a video on plinking. So plinking is what we do as part of changing the shape of a reed. For example, bend the tip up. Okay, I'll bend it up. Now, it won't be in its true resting position unless I plink it. So let's take a look at that. So if I assess its shape, you can see that the tip is up a little bit and it's swooped down in the middle. So I'm going to plink this reed a few times and we're going to look at the shape again. So the way you plink the reed is you stick something under it and you lift up and you make the reed vibrate, and that way it shakes off some of the stored energy and we can see what it looks like at rest again. So let's take another look. And you can see that's different. The tip is not as curved up as it was earlier. Okay. Now we can improve the shape, and plinking is part of the things that help you gauge how you're doing in terms of making the reed better. How many times should I plink? How fast should I plink? How hard should I plink? These are all great questions. Well, there probably isn't a lot of difference in terms of getting rid of the pent-up energy, whether you do it quickly, like or if you slow down. If you look at what happens after you plink, the reed vibrates a lot for a short moment of time, and then the sound quietens down and it dies off. So if you calculated the area under the curve here, most of the energy is spent, in that first, as soon as the sound dies down, there's not a lot of energy being released, potential energy turning into kinetic energy over the last part of that plink. But there still is some, and I don't know, the jury's out as to whether that's beneficial. I get tense as I work on harmonicas. After an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, my muscles stiffen up. I get a little bit less patient, and I found it very helpful to say, I'm going to plink slow. And that means when I plink, I sit back in my chair, I position myself, and I plink. And I try to listen to the sound. I try to appreciate the changes in the sound. That's part of the sensory feedback. I do that really well if I plink slowly. So I've incorporated that, and I'm able to stay more attentive and more relaxed for a longer period of time. And that means I have to go back and redo some work fewer and fewer times because I'm doing it properly the first time around. So I would say plink slowly. How many times do you plink? That's a great question. If you make just a very small change in the reed, I would say you're going to see the maximum benefit after plinking maybe 5, maybe 10 times. So if you're working on the bass, you're also working on the rest of the reed. You want to release all that energy. So I would say plink 5 or 10 times. Check where you're at to see if you're in the right direction and see if you need to make further adjustments. Make those further adjustments. Plink 5 or 10 more times. And when you think you really got it, the reed is exactly where you want it to be shaped, sit back, plink 30 times slowly. Now you might think, well, I'm just going to be plinking all day. Yes, doing reed work means plinking all day. But what that also means is that after those 30 times, when you go and check your reed shape, if it's still where you want it, you're golden. It's the chances that you're misreading it or that you're going to come back the next day and it's going to have changed are really, really low. So it's sort of like an investment. The other thing is, well, how do you position yourself when you plink? Well, I'm wondering if the camera can pick this up, but listen to how great this sounds. Okay, now if I hold the reed plate this way, listen to the change. Can you hear that? So I find that if I hold right at the base where the rivet is and let everything else just sort of vibrate on its own and I don't restrain anything, you're going to have the best sound. Also, take a listen. I'm just going to hold this way for the camera, but listen to the sound as I plink and turn the reed plate away from me. Can you appreciate that difference? I find when the top of the reed is pointed right at my nose, that's when I get the best sound, or I can appreciate the sound at its best. And that's where you can tell, okay, well, this doesn't sound as creamy as I want it to be. Or you can really appreciate how much sustain you have. This particular reed doesn't have a lot of sustain. Let's see if I can change that. I'm using my mouth there to guide me along. So I've improved the reed shape a little bit. Let's see if you can hear the difference. So I'm not sure. In a quiet room, you can hear there's a little bit more sustain. I'm not sure if that's being picked up on the camera or not. All right, well, I hope this makes sense, and I hope that's helpful. Plinking.